At the beginning of the season, EG was one of the more confusing projects with its 10-man roster, and many people, including me, were wondering how this was going to work. Going into lock-in, EG decided to play with a 5-man roster of Ethan, BCJ, Boostio, Com, and Jorgamo, with the coach of Botta. Ethan and BCJ were both seasoned international players by this time, and the rest were up-and-comers. They first played against Team Heretics, where they got a divisive 2-0 win.
Wait!
And then they lost to Talon in a close 2-0 game. This now meant they were out of the tournament. Going into the Americas League, EG decided to stick with the same 5 as lock-in at the start, using the other 5 players as a sort of B team for the main team to practice against. The start of the season saw them facing against Cloud9, a team that had just recently switched out some of its major members in Ye and Vanity for some up-and-comers in Jake and Rooney, who were rookies in Tier 1 at the time. The first map of Pearl was incredibly close, with a 13-11 win for Cloud9 and BCJ at the top of the scoreboard for EG. Going to the second map of Fracture, it was relatively close, with a 13-9 win for Cloud9, with Com on the top of the scoreboard, ending the series with a 2-0 for Cloud9, and EG had lost the first game of the Americas League. The next game will be going against the scary 100 Thieves roster, a team that had just lost a close 1-2 against Sentinels the previous week.
What are you doing, bro? Just jumping around.
The first map of Haven would end with a 13-9 win for 100 Thieves. The next map in the series would be Icebox. Now, at this point in the season, this was the last week that Icebox would be in the map pool before it was going to be replaced by Lotus. So, EG swapped out BCJ for Demon 1 just for this map. However, EG went on to end up losing this map 13-5.
To the site, it's a 4 versus 2. Bang. Demon looking to enter back onto a third into this round. It's now Bang. Oh, looking for the transfer. And he's gonna get it. Yeah.
Jorgamo and Com both having very bad performances, something now which is unheard of. However, after this match, EG dropped BCJ, one of EG's higher rated players at the time. Many people thought Com was going to be dropped. Due to this, he was getting hated on by the community a lot, and the fact that he didn't get dropped, but BCJ did. BCJ was swapped out for Deem 1, who is now a permanent player in the main roster. Demon 1 was someone who was known as a ranked demon, but had not played in a high professional level, except from his time when playing Unreal Tournament, only being trialled for DSG before he joined EG. The first matchup with his updated roster was against Crew, a team that had also not won a game in the Americas League at the time, so EG did not have a huge daunting team against them. The game was very close in the first 2 maps, and they're both trading 13-11 wins on Pearl and Ascent, but EG managed to win the last map of Fracture 13-7. Throughout the series, the top performers were Com and Demon 1, proving the doubters wrong. The next 2 games were against the best Brazilian teams of Furia and Loud respectively. They lost to Furia 2-1, with the first map being extremely close with an overtime loss.
Wait, what the fuck? Oh, you better not steal his ace, bro.
Going on to play Loud, people thought that they were going to get dominated. However, EG started with a 13-3 win on Split, but then lost the map of Haven in a close 13-10 game. Going into the last map of Pearl, it still could be close.
Sonic and Les, and Ethan, denied his humility. He's got to win it out now, but so difficult, so damn hard, and it's the 13-0.
EG lost the game 13-0, the only 13-0 for a team in all the franchise leagues. At this point, the EG prospects of reaching Masters Tokyo were very slim. In order for EG to confirm their spot in the playoffs, they would need to win the next 4 games in a row. The next subsequent 3 weeks, EG would beat Leviathan, Sentinels and MIBR. On the 4th week, they would lose to NRG, which meant their place in playoffs was out of their hands. The only way they could make playoffs is if MIBR could beat 100 Thieves. The problem was, MIBR was a team that was second to last in the league, meaning that the game for them meant nothing, and for 100 Thieves it meant everything. Because if 100 Thieves lost the game, they would not make playoffs, and instead EG would take their space. MIBR was even playing with a coach as a stand-in. Surely 100 Thieves had this in the bag.
Wait, they don't know. Shoot the fucking guy!
Chosen's knife ended 100 Thieves' chances of reaching Masters Tokyo and sent them to the last chance qualifier. In turn, this sent EG flying into the playoffs. The first game for EG in the playoffs was against NRG, who they had just played 2 weeks earlier and lost in a divisive 2-0. It looked to be the same at the start, with NRG winning the first map of Haven. However, it was very close, with the game ending 13-11. The next map would go EG's way. Again, it was also incredibly close, going all the way to overtime with a 15-13 scoreline.
They can't really help each other.
Yeah, individual plays. Even when focusing here towards the pillar, Lucio supporting with stars at least. A Rico! Oh my god! Shot by Demon 1! It's a 2v2 now. Bladestorm available. And the crossfire is being set up the off angle. It's up to Crash. He's on a 2 versus 1. Swings back out, but it's Lucio with the kill!
NRG seemed to run out of gas on the third map, and EG took it 13-7. A newly bold Demon 1 absolutely dominated the series. All EG needed was one more win and they'd qualify for Tokyo. Against them would be Cloud9, a team that they had not played since the first week of the regular season, and a game that they lost. To make things even harder for EG, Cloud9 had also finished the season second, with only 1 loss to Loud, meaning this was going to be an uphill struggle to beat them. Well, I say uphill struggle for EG, but it was the complete opposite. EG just 2-0'd them, like it was another day in the office. Cloud9 only managed to get 7 rounds in the series, looking completely deflated compared to their regular season performance. EG would end up losing to Loud and NRG afterwards in the seeding games, but it didn't matter, because this meant that the team that everyone counted out had now qualified for the first Masters of the franchise system. Masters Tokyo. EG was seeded into Group B for Masters Tokyo. The scariest team in their group was DRX, so beating them would be a good litmus test to see how they would do in international play. The first matchup for them would be against Foot. Just like EG, they were a team that was not expected to make Tokyo. On split, EG would dominate 13-5. However, the second map of Lotus was incredibly close, but EG ended up taking it 14-12. The next matchup would be against DRX, as they beat Attacking Soul Esports. As stated before, this was a litmus test for them for the international stage. EG blew this test out of the water and managed to win a pretty clean 2-0, really cementing themselves as a world-class team. This would also send them into the playoffs. The first matchup in the playoffs would be against their America's League counterparts in Loud, a team that they had not managed to beat in both stages of the America's League. Of course, one of the maps there being 0-13. However, this time, EG would look to dominate, winning the series 2-0 and sending Loud to the lower bracket. EG for the next round would face Team Liquid, a team with 2 Masters winners, including Nats, arguably one of the greatest players in the history of Valorant. EG would sweep the first map 13-2 and win the next map 13-9. EG was just now 1 game away from reaching the grand final. Only Fnatic stood in their way. I say only Fnatic, but this is the super team and a game that would be incredibly hard to overcome. They would trade the first 2 maps of Lotus and Haven, and the third map of Split would be close, EG looking to take the game to overtime.
Grenade 10. It's sent him running. 10 seconds now. They're working on the clock here. Running it down so low. Boaster down at 64. Ethan going to swap the cross. But it's Leo's got Jormo. Oh my God! Leo has taken Fnatic across the line.
An insane last round would see Fnatic taking the series and sending EG to the lower bracket, where they would face PaperX with CGRS in a best of 5. Even though PaperX had a stand-in, they still managed to make the game very close, taking it to all 5 maps, ending in Ascent, where PaperX would run out of steam and EG would take the series 3-2 to rematch Fnatic in the grand final. EG are a team that are very prep heavy, so they would have been back in the VOD dungeon to iron out their mistakes from the previous series, so surely the game would go to all 5 maps. However, Fnatic seemed to outclass them in the best of 5, with the second and third map being close, but Fnatic still took the third 14-12, ending up winning the series 3-0 and crushing EG's hearts of lifting a Masters trophy. Although EG were now a team that would be feared at an international level, and Champions was their chance to capitalise with this. Placed into Group B in the easiest group, EG were licking their lips at the competition. The first matchup was against the worst Chinese team of FPX. EG would win this game with a swift 2-0, not before Demon 1 would start spamming bodies after a clutch. This would cause fellow Valorant YouTuber Commend to tweet this. Whether you agree or disagree with what Commend said, this created a great storyline for EG, making them the quote-unquote villains of Valorant. EG would then face Foot, the team that they beat in Tokyo. However, this game would be much closer, with Pearl being an overtime thriller.
But he hits the shot anyway, just taking over this round. It took some time for Evil Geniuses.
But then EG taking Bind 13-9, winning the series 2-0. In an interview after the game, Demon 1 would be asked this.
You've been shooting a lot of bodies lately, buddy. You know, you've been talking some smack online a little bit, buddy. So how does it feel being the villain, the new villain of Valorant right now? Is it something you're embracing?
Honestly, I don't give a what you guys say about me. You can call me whatever you want.
Well, that was, yeah, sure. All right, we'll go with that one. Hey, well, you know what, man?
A week later, EG would face against EDG. This was a matchup with a lot going outside the game, with Boostio stating that China would never be a better region in Valorant than North America. Boostio would start to eat his words in the first map, where EDG would win split 14-12. However, Boostio would then back them in the next 2, winning both maps very convincingly 13-5. After this, in the post-match conference, Boostio would state this, further cementing the villain storyline.
A few thoughts on Chinese Valorant in the past. Would you say that your opinions have changed today after facing Edward Gaming?
No. They are really good for Chinese team, but I don't know. They're not very good, to be honest. Hong Kong was a disappointment.
After beating EDG, EG would face DRX, another team that they beat in Tokyo. History would repeat itself as they beat them in a strong 2-0. EG were now in the upper final, the hurdle that they fell at in Masters Tokyo. Against them this time was not Fnatic, but Paper X, a team that was now at full force with something. They would trade the first 2 maps, and on Pearl, EG were looking like they were going to break the curse and win the upper final with a scoreline of 18-6. But EG would choke, and they would end up losing the game in overtime.
It feels like he does not have a hope in hell. The first shot across. Something taken out. The operator on the floor. But everybody else from Paper X encroaching on his position. Swarming him. Getting in behind. The flash across. Mind Freak about to swing the corner. He does so. And he puts him down. 15-3. A 2-1 victory. Paper X, they advance into the grand finals.
Falling again to the lower bracket, they would see themselves facing Loud for the last time in VCT this year. A 5-map banger would see EG taking the game 3-2, causing them to reach the second grand final in a row. This was their chance, the team that everyone counted out at the beginning of the season, to go from zero to hero, a true Cinderella run. EG and Paper X would trade a map apiece. It was now 1-1. EG would look to dominate on Bind, winning 13-5. History would look to repeat itself with another trading of maps, where Paper X would lead Lotus 7-5. However, just like the rest of the year, EG would not give up, and they would stay resilient.
He's a little ahead of expectation, but come on the way. He's going to take him down. Still trying to dig deeper. The paint, it didn't connect. He found nothing. It's a 3v3. Still anyone's game here. Jing, the next to try and step into the ring. Demon one on the other side. Ethan's found. Mind Freak is down to 2. This could be it. Another chance for Jing. It's all over. EG.
Is this the start of an evil genius's dynasty?
Absolutely.
Absolutely?
Absolutely.
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 Sadly, the current esports climate is incredibly volatile, and it was announced that the EG players would be given an ultimatum. Their pay would be cut if they stayed on the team, or they would have to leave. So for the team that just won the World Championships of Valorant, and they wanted to stay together, they would be forced to split up. Sadly, Champions will probably be the last time we will see this 5 together, and we will not see what they will achieve next year. But it was fun while it lasted. Thank you for watching my video till the very end. If you enjoy my content, make sure you subscribe and check out my other videos.